Well, my name's Carolyn Hodgman and I'm the Technology Enhanced Learning Manager, leading on Technology Enhanced Learning here for Professional Services at the IOPPN. Well, from a Technology Enhanced Learning perspective, the project is really about initially the development of an e-learning resource that would sit within a model that has various face-to-face approaches with these groups. So in terms of having a benchmark now with a resource, we now have a set of e-learning resources, which is often called reusable learning object, that can be used with other disciplines, within other faculties, and couched and contextualised for those areas.
I'm Dr. Jenny Yeanes and I'm the Head of Graduate Studies for the Talk Programmes at the Institute of Psychiatry, Psychology and Neuroscience. So the model that we've developed for these small group tutorials has, I think, three main components to it. And these are all elements of training, really. So the first element is that we ask anybody who wants to act as a tutor in the tutorials to attend the King's Learning Institute Preparing to Teach course, so that they have that centralised training that's accredited by KLI. The other element of the training is that we have developed, and this has been a core part of the project, we have developed an online training resource, an e-module. One component of that is training for tutors, and the other is training for tutees. So that's the second element to the model. Then the third element is that obviously these tutorials are going to be supporting some kind of specific teaching, specific module or a course. So it's really important that the course that is organising the tutorials has a kind of course-specific briefing for both the tutors and the tutees. So we've set about doing some example resources and some guidelines that courses can use to help them to communicate specific elements that the participants need to know. And then another thing that has been, I think I'm quite proud that we've managed to get off the ground is a central database of students who are interested to take part in tutorials and their teaching expertise, so that anybody who wants to run tutorials doesn't have to, email the whole faculty every time. They can just go to the database and find the appropriate people and their emails and their expertise and set things going in that way.
Hi, my name is Becky Strawbridge. I'm a researcher from the Centre for Affective Disorders here at the IOPPN, and I've also worked as project coordinator for the Small Group Tutorials programme, which we piloted here in the IOPPN. I think a challenge that we found for the Small Group Tutorials project was the investment of time that was needed was quite large, and I think particularly with developing blended learning programs, for example, you have lots of people with different expertise, and being able to integrate those is a time-consuming activity, but ultimately rewarding. And I think that good communication and ongoing support from everyone that we were working with really helped with that. There were a few other logistical difficulties that happened in the tutorial program. So students found it quite difficult to schedule the sessions themselves so that everyone could attend. And this is something that we actually had some great ideas from students about how we could improve this, which we did, and it seems to be working better now. So that's another success.
So on the quantitative side, we gave lots of questionnaires. Some questions were specifically about the tutorials we were running and what the tutor's experience was and what the tutee's experience was. We found those were really very positive, very encouraging, but in a way it's not surprising because we asked very specific questions about the things that we expected would have worked well. So they did, and that was reassuring. One of the other things we asked about was we were interested to know whether this would impact at all on the kind of things that are assessed by the P-TEST questionnaire. So we adapted some of the P-TEST questions and asked them about the tutorials. And it was a positive, we did get some positive responses there. So for example, students had felt that the tutorials had improved their ability to understand the marking criteria, would be one thing that I remember coming out. They weren't completely positive, but there was enough promising things there that it did seem to be helping a little bit in terms of the things that matter to the P-TEST survey. Moving on maybe to the qualitative feedback, we held a couple of focus groups and we had some interviews with individual students. So we asked just for their free text, natural responses to their experiences. And again, we got quite a lot of positive comments, but that was a really useful way for us to find out what things were not working so well. And there were, of course, a few things, and we did do a little bit of a thematic analysis on that, and it seemed to fall out as follows. One of the things that was particularly difficult was the practical side of it. So actually for students and tutors to schedule their tutorials. Because there was no set time in the programme of the course, and because there were, maybe 5 or 6 people trying to get together at one time, some people found it actually really challenging. And as a result of that, there was, in some groups, there was a bit of a dropout, so the tutors felt a bit let down because their students didn't turn up and so on. So that was one problem area. Another problem area was around actually our vision that these should not be related to particular expertise. So while that was absolutely fine in some cases, it really highlighted that students in other cases needed and wanted that specific content, small group teaching. So that's something that we can take out of this as feedback for our faculty and think about how we might make that kind of provision.
I think we've learned a lot from this programme, and I would say listening to your students and the staff and everyone that you're collaborating with is really important, because we had a lot of really helpful ideas. So the use of focus groups, evaluation forms, of course, but also just informal conversations with people has really helped us make some refinements to optimise this programme. The other thing is that I would say to anyone trying to do something similar would be look for resources that are already out there before making your own. There are loads, and they've really helped us as well, and incorporating them into the blended learning training programs has been really useful.
If you want to develop an online teaching resource like we did here for the e-learning module training, don't underestimate that. I think I came into the project with a naive idea that I could sit down, write some content, and up it would go on the web and off it would run. And it's really, the time and expertise needed to get a high quality interactive e-learning module or any e-learning package is really significant. And it needs those skills, and you rely heavily on the excellent work of colleagues who are experienced in that domain. So I would definitely approach that sort of thing a lot more realistically. I'd allow a lot more time and a lot more resource for delivering something like that. But I'm delighted that the end package is really good.